Welcome to year 7 of Wookie Drives, my little car review channel, and holy crap, I can't believe I've been doing this for that long. Nonetheless, let's kick off the new year with a truck, and possibly my favorite truck, a GMT 800 Chevrolet Silverado. Specifically, this 2000 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 Extended Cab LS. I've covered the GMT 800 platform before with a 572,000 mile 2000 GMC Yukon XL. That SUV was pretty much what you've come to expect of a GMT 800 truck in the 2020s, a used and abused truck that ain't heard no bell. The type of truck that's so ubiquitous on our streets that there's multiple Facebook meme groups dedicated to them, such as GMT 800s with threatening auras. But here I am, driving a very clean GMT 800 Silverado. Probably the best type of example to be shown on your video screen, for better or for worse. No, it's not anything special like a quadra-steer truck or an SS or a hybrid or even an HD with the Duramax or one of the 3 different Escalade body styles or an Avalanche or... you get it. This is just a lowly base model LS. 2-wheel drive, 5.3 liter LS V8, extended cab with a camper shell or a cap or whatever you call it depending on where you live. Pure old man spec and just as clean as you would expect. I've mentioned it in other videos, but the previous generation of Chevy truck, the GMT 400 platform that was known for being the final generation of the CK designation, is what I would consider the first truly modern pickup truck. Yeah, Ford had introduced the quasi-independent front suspension with its bull-nosed trucks almost a decade earlier, but the GMT 400 was truly a modern take on the simple pickup truck when it was launched in 1988. Sure, it's tame by today's standards, but the competition had nothing like it. Ford was still pretty conservative with its F-Series, and Dodge's big rig-inspired second gen was still 6 years out. With the success of the GMT 400, GM then began development for what was next in 1993, with the final design signed off in 1995. While not a massive step forward like the GMT 400, 2nd Gen Ram, or 10th Gen Ford F-Series on the outside, it was under the skin that stepped the truck forward a lot. Another big step for the GMT 800 generation was the fact that Chevy and GMC went all in on options, something that's pretty standard in modern trucks. And not just like appearance packages and the like. Stuff like quadra-steer and the ProTech composite bed were innovations that no one saw conservative old GM producing. But here they were doing it. This was the generation when GM allowed its truck division to go hog wild, and consumers were better for it. Another big shift was marketing. Like the Dodge Ram before it, GM saw the benefit of shifting away from alphanumerics for its trucks and implementing an actual name for its models. Both brands would utilize longtime trim package names. GMC would use Sierra, and Chevrolet Silverado. And thus, the Chevrolet Silverado was officially born, much to the confusion to people who retroactively call earlier Chevy trucks Silverados. No, those are CKs. But Chevy would go hard in the paint with the marketing for its new Silverado, and the Silverado is still Chevy's rock in its truck lineup. As I mentioned earlier, while outside sheet metal looked like an evolution of the earlier GMT 400, underneath GM would introduce a whole new lines of gas and diesel engines. GM's old Gen 2 small block engines were finally set to the pasture, and came the LS. Upon its launch, 1500 models were available with 3 different engines, all sold under the new Vortec family name. The trusty 4.3-liter V6, the 4.8-liter V8, and the 5.3-liter V8. HD models would get the 6-liter V8, the 8.1-liter big block V8, and the Isuzu developed 6.6-liter Duramax turbo diesel V8. Later models would get updated 6 liters with more power, such as the Sierra Denali and the Silverado SS. Most models either got 3 different variations of GM's long-running 4-speed automatic, and a couple of different New Venture 5-speed manuals, or the Allison 1000's automatic behind Duramax models. And of course, Silverados were available in either 2 or 4-wheel drive. Single and extended cabs were initially offered, and there was actually two different types of extended cabs, either a 3-door or a 4-door, as well as HD models getting a crew cab offering. Following the 2004 refresh, the crew cab was finally offered on 1500 models. And like I keep mentioning, there were tons of special models and options available. Most famous is probably my favorite option, the short-lived quadra-steer 4-wheel steering that sold poorly due to its high cost. If I ever get to review one, I will go into full detail about the quadra-steer and why I love it so much. There's also the ProTech composite box, a $850 option for short bed models that was rust and dent proof. But poor marketing led to extremely poor sales and its eventual demise. With the 2003 refresh, a SS model appeared, but all it really amounted to was a body kit and a 6-liter V8 with slightly more power over standard 1500 models. While muscle trucks are cool, it just didn't feel like it earned the SS name. There was the rare Intimidator SS version that paid tribute to the late NASCAR legend Dale Earnhardt though, so that's neat. And finally, GM was the first manufacturer to introduce a hybrid full-size pickup with its hybrid in 2004. All in all, the GMT 800 would run until the GMT 900 would launch in 2007. Although there was a Silverado Classic that would be sold in 2007 to help get rid of remaining stock, similar to Ram's 1500 Classic in recent years. Alrighty, enough with our little history lesson. Let's finally talk about this particular 2000 Chevrolet Silverado. It is a 2000 Silverado 1500 Extended Cab LS. It has the 5.3-liter Vortec 5300 V8 that produced a decent 285 horsepower and 325 foot-pounds of torque. It's hooked up to the often loathed 4L60E, a transmission that's known for needing rebuilds when abuse is applied. And power sent to the rear wheels to a trusty GM 10-bolt. Even as an extended cab, it's actually one of the early 3-door models. Now, like I mentioned before, early GMT 800 models extended cabs were either 3-door or 4-door. Obviously, the 4-door sold much better because it's a lot more usable, and eventually the 3-door was phased out over time. Inside, it's pretty Spartan compared to modern trucks, but you get a giant center console with lots of storage space, a couple of sunglasses holders in the ceiling, and even a CD compartment that's up there with those sunglasses holders. There's a tow mode, air conditioning, and a grab handle on the passenger side dash. A neat feature that is something I haven't seen on GMT 800 Silverados before is this center console addition that's normally found in Tahoe and Suburban models. But the owner and I think this was something the original owner had the dealer install. Pretty neat, as normally this floor space is completely empty in Silverados. But most impressive is just how clean this truck is. These GMT 800s were used and abused. They could easily hit 300,000 plus miles with nothing more than basic maintenance as long as you weren't towing or doing anything to upset the 4L60E. I showed this off in the Yukon XL video, as that truck had around 572,000 miles at the time, and it was only on its second transmission while everything else was how it left the factory. That truck has since had a rollover accident, but it's back onto the road after my friend Brian did the repairs himself. A testament to the over-engineered mechanicals of these trucks. Yes, they can get rusty, and their interiors disintegrate, but a GMT 800 truck or SUV will run like crap long after most other trucks or SUVs stop running. But here I am, in a 23-year-old truck with only 135,000 miles. Almost all the switches in the interiors have their paint untouched, just the markings on the wiper stalk being faded. Typically, use over time with greasy fingers rubs this off. The seats still have their bolstering. The HVAC controls actually feel kinda great. I don't think I've ever experienced what these controls originally felt like. They're either gummed up and stiff or just loosey-goosey or just falling off. No, it's actually supposed to feel smooth with these little indents for each setting. Just something I wasn't expecting with this truck. At some point, the original radio had been swapped out, but that's probably for the better as this LS model just had a cassette player to begin with. Other than that, the two hiccups in the interior are the fact that the sunglasses holders have since departed from the ceiling, and the headliner by the doors is worn. almost as if the old man that owned this truck for 18 years was bumping it as he was entering and exiting the truck as he grew stiffer and stiffer over time. It's remarkable how clean this truck is. I don't think I've ever driven a GMT 800 that didn't drive with a bunch of steering slop, creaked over every bump, or just rattled to the end of time. Sure, it rides and drives like a truck, but it actually feels like a decent truck when it hasn't been used and abused its entire life. Not a hint of rust underneath. Heck, there's still some of the original dealer undercoating in spots around the body mounts. Under the hood, despite the rust, it still looks clean and fairly new. Not a lick of grease or built-up grime. Really, the biggest issue with this truck is at some point the original owner decided to get a Mako paint job. Probably due to the fact that GM's clear coating was not good and North Carolina's sun tends to destroy paint. And yeah, that Mako paint job's peeling in a couple spots. But overall, this truck is absolutely mint. The original owner had sold it 5 years ago to a friend of the current owner, who used it as a tow rig for his track day car. That's all he really used it for, to tow his race car to the track 4 or 5 times a year. That second owner also went through and replaced a bunch of the suspension bushings as well as replacing the shocks, which could lend to how well this truck rides and steers. As well as installing the rear hitch, as this truck had never seen a trailer before in its life. In those 5 years of ownership, the owner only really put around 5,000 miles on it before he sold it to the current owner, Mark, when he decided to consolidate his fleet. Mark's intentions with this truck are pretty much the same as his friends, using the Silverado as a tow vehicle for his Project Hill Climb car, which you may see on the channel in the near future, and overall second vehicle for when he needs to move something that won't fit inside his Fiesta ST. It just happened to be that when he got himself a truck to do truck things, he happened to luck into one of the best surviving examples of a GMT 800 on the road today. There's not a threatening aura to this old truck. It's just a simple old man truck. And those are the best trucks, as they're usually been meticulously kept their entire life. Overall, the GMT 800 of GM's trucks were the next logical step for those trucks. They greatly modernized what made the GMT 400 great, while also doing a bunch of coke and throwing all sorts of options and engineering special versions of these trucks to make them legends. But even in their most simple forms, they're still great trucks. It may look like a boring grandpa truck, but this old Silverado still exudes the bloated optimism of the late 90s and early aughts GM. Before the recession hit and their replacements just felt generic and boring. Something GM would rectify when the third generation Sierras and Silverados would hit in 2014. But a GMT 800 Chevy Silverado remains my favorite truck. Maybe it's the rose-colored glasses of my youth, when these trucks hit at the absolute right time to leave a lasting impression on an impressionable young youth like myself. Maybe it's just my appreciation for all the effort and engineering GM did outside their normal conservative comfort zone to make these trucks what they were. Maybe it's just my experience with just how much abuse these trucks could take. Or maybe it's just a combination of all those factors that make me love these trucks so much. 2000 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 Extended Cab LS, a pristine example of my favorite truck. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you once again for watching another episode. Huge shout out to Mark of Statesville, North Carolina for letting me drive his grandpa truck for this video today. If you have a car or truck you'd like to see on the show and happen to be the Charlotte or Mooresville, North Carolina area, email me a submission of your car or truck at wookiedrives@gmail.com. That's right, submit your car or truck to wookiedrives@gmail.com. That's wookiedrives@gmail.com. Don't forget to give the video a like, drop a comment with some feedback. Any sort of interaction with this video really helps small channels like mine grow in the algorithm. Share with all your GMT 800 Silverado friends. And finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications for more Wookie Drives like these. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.
How's this for an adrenaline rush? Now get a 2001 Chevy Silverado half-ton extended cab with $1,500 cash back. Or choose 2.9% APR. Or get a Chevy S10 4-cylinder extended cab with $2,000 cash back. Makes your pulse quicken just thinking about it. Get great offers on select Chevy trucks at your Chevy Network dealer now.